Devin Nunes has filed a number of civil complaints against Twitter, against the McClatchy newspaper, and against Esquire, Hearst magazine.
Suing a Twitter user known as Devin Nunes' mom, and this is...
That's not the only parody account Nunes called out. He also name-checked Devin Nunes' cow.
He is basically using the courts to stifle free speech, to stifle criticism of himself. This is the very activity that we have a major Supreme Court precedent for.
This is the mother of all fake news stories.
Congressman Devin Nunes, he is taking action, filing a bombshell defamation lawsuit against CNN after they published an alleged false story about Nunes traveling to Vienna to dig up dirt on quid pro quo Joe.
I think the interesting thing about the CNN suit is it may be the only one of this crop in which CNN may rely on the New York Times versus Sullivan standard as a defense, because there could be, according to Nunes, some falsehoods here. He says he didn't travel to Vienna.
When they said that I was in Vienna, I was actually in Benghazi. I was the first member of Congress to be back in Benghazi since after the attacks, meeting with General Haftar. Then I went from there to Malta to actually participate in a repatriation ceremony.
New York Times Sullivan is the landmark Supreme Court case that arose from a suit against the New York Times for an advertisement, which basically is built on the idea, if you're a public official and you want to bring a libel or defamation case against a news organization, you have to clear a higher hurdle, and that is actual malice. You have to prove that the news organization not only published falsehoods, but published damaging falsehoods that they knew to be false, or that they proceeded with reckless disregard of the falsity or truth. The New York Times Sullivan ruling is tremendously important. Our press is so critical to the democracy that it has to approach these people fearlessly. If New York Times versus Sullivan gets taken down sometime in the distant future, yeah, I think our democracy would be infirm. This is a time when all kinds of politicians, mostly President Trump, are breaking norms.
I'm going to open up our libel laws so when they write purposely negative and horrible and false articles, we can sue them and win lots of money.
I see mistakes, yes. I see problems here and there, but I don't see an epidemic of recklessness in the American media. In fact, I think if there's an epidemic, it's oftentimes that it's an epidemic of restraint and overcautiousness. Powerful people in this country already have extensive means to push back on sort of critical coverage before it's published. You saw this in the Weinstein case. I believe his list of alleged sexual harassers is in the 80s or 90s. He had been able to keep news organizations from publishing these truths for decades. Same thing with Jeffrey Epstein. There were numerous organizations that bounced off the Jeffrey Epstein story before the Miami Herald finally nailed it. And you can see this hesitancy on a broader level, I believe, with respect to Trump's lying. You know, news organizations have always been very careful about calling him a liar, or this is a lie, or that is a lie. The same hesitancy applies to his racism. He has been racist for many years now, going all the way back to Central Park 5 and so on and so forth. But news organizations have been hesitant to call him not only a racist, but his actions and his words racist. There is a great, great sense in the U.S. mainstream media of restraint.
There was no objectivity or fairness in the media's rush of stories, just as a fevered rush to tarnish and remove a president who refuses to pretend that the media are something different from what they really are. Puppets of the Democratic Party.
Devin Nunes has become a symbol of the degree to which bashing the media has become an industry. He has seen how Trump has thrived by hammering the media, and he's just said, well, why don't I do that? Why don't I just go ahead and do that? And why wouldn't he? A man has become president by doing basically the same thing.